Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, December 29th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. San Diego is under an extended stay-at-home order, and this time it will be in place indefinitely. Let's get right to KPBS health reporter Taryn Mento on this significant, if not unexpected, development.
15% availability. That's the minimum the state wants to see in Southern California intensive care units. But California Health Secretary Dr. Mark Ghaly says that's still not the case, even after 3 weeks of the regional restrictions.
We essentially are projecting that the ICU capacity is not improving in Southern California and San Joaquin Valley, and that demand will continue to exceed capacity.
The Southern California region's ICU capacity is currently at 0%, but that doesn't mean zero ICU beds. The percentage of what's available is adjusted downward if nearly a third of beds are used for COVID-19 patients.
And so in some ways, we adjust that rate to make sure that we have that capacity, not just for COVID, but for others.
Ghaly says looking 4 weeks ahead indicates the situation won't improve. He says that's partially informed by how many people are currently testing positive for the virus.
We know that those cases are going to end up in the hospital 10 to 12 days later at a rate of about 12%. And then some of those cases, about 12% of those cases, at a minimum, between 10 and 30, we've seen, depending on the region, are going to end up in your ICU a few days after that.
The concerns about bed and staffing capacity come with worries about resources to care for all those who may need it. He says hospitals are planning for what's called crisis care. The local hospital association says no San Diego facilities are officially at that stage, but Ghaly says some Southern California hospitals have had to implement parts of it.
Whether those are decisions about how ambulances are received into the facility or how stretched staff become to care for patients, looking at the effectiveness of certain treatments for certain patients who are unlikely to survive or do well. That is happening in facilities in Southern California.
He says no California facilities have had to ration actual ventilators, nor have they officially activated their crisis care guidelines. But he says hospitals must prepare for that possibility. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
And here are the latest numbers from the county health department. 31 deaths were reported this afternoon, but some of that may be due to delayed reporting over the holiday weekend. Another 2,500 new cases pushes San Diego's total to more than 150,000 since March. Several testing sites that were closed due to rainy weather Monday have reopened. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says those $600 stimulus payments might hit bank accounts as soon as tonight. But boosting that number to $2,000 might not happen at all. Nadia Romero tells us how it's being blocked by Senate Republicans.
President Trump continuing his vacation in Florida, golfing Tuesday morning, and taking to Twitter to call on the Senate to increase stimulus checks, something the House agreed to on Monday.
2/3 being in the affirmative, the bill is passed.
Now the bill is in the Senate. It's a risky position for Senate Republicans who don't want to disagree with the president and don't want the COVID bill to top $1 trillion. But Democrats are all on board with the increase.
$2,000 stimulus checks could mean the difference between American families having groceries for a few extra weeks or going hungry. The difference between paying the rent or being kicked out of your home that you've lived in for years.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tried to get the bill passed by unanimous consent, but
is there objection to the modification?
Object.
The move was blocked by Mitch McConnell. The legislation could be voted on later if the Senate Majority Leader chooses. Now, all eyes on how Republicans will respond.
Do Senate Republicans join with the rest of America in supporting $2,000 checks.
How Senate Republicans vote on the measure
Hello, DeKalb County
could have big implications on the pending Georgia Senate runoff elections 1 week away.
God bless you guys for being out here.
Both Republican senators, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, support the increase and have been touting the stimulus deal on the campaign trail.
Well, I've said I support it. Look, we have to provide relief to Americans.
In Washington, Nadia Romero, KPBS News.
Public health experts say we're in the darkest days of the pandemic, and yet millions of people have passed through the nation's airports since Sunday. KPBS reporter John Carroll went to San Diego International to gauge the level of concern for those who've chosen not to stay at home.
Passenger totals at San Diego International Airport mirror the national numbers. The TSA says about 1.3 million passengers moved through the nation's airports on Sunday. On Monday, more than 1 million.
6 feet of distance from others when waiting for your bags.
At the airport, recurring announcements about physical distancing seemed to fall on deaf ears. People bunching up just like in pre-pandemic times as they waited for their luggage. So why chance it?
Well, it's an opportunity for me to get a chance to spend time with my kids and my grandkids for the first time, and this be our first holiday together.
Visiting family and loved ones. That was the reason everybody we talked to gave us for traveling. When it came to the concern level about traveling during this pandemic, the responses ranged from somewhat to not a care in the world.
Because I'm not afraid.
Ashley Schaefer just returned from visiting family in Georgia. I asked her, given the fact a COVID infection can be deadly, why she wasn't afraid.
I'm not afraid to die, and I know I'm not going to die. My health is really well. I know how to take care of myself.
We've implemented a number of modifications in the airport.
Airport spokesperson Sabrina Lopiccolo says the airport has placed floor decals reminding people to physically distance. Plexiglass barriers have gone up. She says high touch points are being disinfected more often and masks are required while on airport property. And
we do have our staff that's walking around and hopefully looking in those areas and trying to break up some of the areas in which perhaps there might be people a little bit closer than that 6 foot distance.
Beyond that, it's up to people to follow the rules.
I'm actually coming from San Francisco.
Nathan Mraz was visiting his girlfriend and her family. He says he wasn't completely comfortable traveling.
I'll be honest, it's not the most ideal situation right now, flying.
Mraz says he was somewhat reassured to learn airlines have upgraded their plane air filtration systems. And Sabrina Lopiccolo says the airport is awaiting results of a study on if any further improvements can be made to the airport's HVAC systems. She says the next busy travel day they're expecting is after New Year's, when tens of thousands of travelers will likely pass through San Diego International Airport once again. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Vice President-elect Kamala Harris now has the COVID-19 vaccine after rolling up her sleeve this morning.
That was easy. Thank you.
Harris received the vaccine developed by Moderna. America's vaccines are in the early stages of their rollout and are available only to high-risk groups and high-ranking government officials at this time. Pfizer got the green light for its vaccine a few weeks ago. President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President Mike Pence have also been vaccinated in recent days. Local nurses and caregivers say they are overwhelmed by a recent move to increase their workload. KPBS North County reporter Jacob Ayer shows us how they hit the streets today to demand help.
Nurses and caregivers with the California Nurses Association came together today to speak out against Palomar Health's recent move to get state approval to increase the number of patients some nurses can be assigned. Earlier this month, a street-side protest was held outside of Palomar Health Poway, where a single 12-bed mixed care unit was impacted by the change. Now, protesters took to their cars and horns to get their message across. Sue Phillips is a registered nurse at Palomar Health Escondido and a member of the California Nurses Association. She says a change to staffing ratios poses a health risk to both staff and patients.
More nursing staff decreases mortality. So you can see if they add more patients to an already full load for a nurse, it's just not enough time in the day to try to take care of people. And this is not the time for anybody to ask for waivers to nurse to patient ratios.
In response to Tuesday's protest, Palomar Health released a statement saying, "The waiver is approved by the California Department of Public Health and will only be used when necessary based on patient needs and volume. Hospitals across the state received the same waiver, and many are already operating under these permissions. We will continue to do everything we can to protect our staff and remain prepared for our community." Phillips says she is worn out from the influx of COVID-19 patients and nursing shortages, and that increasing nurse-to-patient ratios would worsen the situation.
The most difficult part of my job is watching the nurses and caregivers give every single thing they can, and then to be slapped in the face by the hospital right before Christmas, right through all of this. It is undeniably exhausting and emotional for me.
Palomar Health says it is one of 170 hospitals in California that have applied for the same waiver. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Dr. Shirley Weber, San Diego Assemblywoman and soon-to-be California Secretary of State, is talking with KPBS about her future job.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when I first went to the legislature, the first bills I did actually were around voting and were around making sure that those who were uninformed got a chance to vote. Those who had committed felonies that they knew they had a right to vote. And so my earlier bills were really grappling with those particular issues because those issues become fundamental to the rights individuals have, the ability to express themselves and to make decisions about what they want.
Assemblywoman Weber was recently chosen by Governor Gavin Newsom to fill the position. Current Secretary of State Alex Padilla will soon take over Kamala Harris's Senate seat. This interview is part of a segment that will air tomorrow on Midday Edition on KPBS FM. A lot of people have time off this week, and it turns out many of them are trying to see the snow. Caltrans shared these photos of the snow left over in Julian from the storm that passed through yesterday. Crews worked to clear State Route 79 for drivers. In Mount Laguna, Caltrans had to close the off-ramps from I-8 to Sunrise Highway today because it was getting too crowded. We're expecting dry weather for the rest of the week. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Well, our latest storm is now moving out of the area, a little breezy overnight, and temperatures will warm gradually into Wednesday. There'll be another system that'll be dropping down across California, kind of like an inside slider type deal. So that means just a little bit cooler here Thursday. And then as we take a look ahead to Thursday night and Friday, we'll see some stronger winds as that system moves on through. It'll be dry for the rest of the week, but next week does look like there is an opportunity for some more rain in the area, so there is the potential for a couple of systems coming on in. Still dealing with some rough surf along the coast, so some high surf advisories continue right through Wednesday morning. Overnight tonight, we're back to dry conditions. Oceanside's 32, San Diego's 41. Kind of chilly here in Ramona, down to 28. El Cajon 38, Borrego Springs 36, and Mount Laguna will be 20, and it'll be a breezy night tonight. For tomorrow, well, the high pressure is building across the Great Basin. Those look like it'll be dry, just a little bit milder here. Taking a look at our temperatures, we're up to 63 in Oceanside, 64 at San Diego, Ramona 65, El Cajon's around 70. So temperatures pretty close to average for this time of year. Sunshine, Borrego Springs, and Mount Laguna. There's that system dropping down across the southwest here during the day Thursday. That will bring us a little bit of cooling, and that will bring us another episode of some wind Thursday night into Friday. Here's a look at our temperatures. Wednesday, plenty of sun, pretty nice. A little bit cooler Thursday, and then a little bit milder Friday. Quiet weather for the weekend. As we take you inland, you can see nice and mild Wednesday, but cooler Thursday, then milder again for Friday. And as we head to the mountains, we'll see those strong winds in the area. They'll be subsiding on Thursday, and then quiet into the weekend. And in the deserts, temperatures here. Cooling a bit on Thursday, but a bit milder Friday, and dry into the weekend. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
On Monday, we told you the big news about the Padres getting All-Star pitcher Blake Snell. Turns out they weren't done. Last night, Major League Baseball reporters broke the news of a big trade with the Chicago Cubs. The Padres will get Yu Darvish, who is considered one of the top pitchers in baseball. This afternoon, the team formally announced the Snell trade and held an introductory press conference over Zoom. Snell was more concerned about the busy few days for Padres beat writers.
Blake, what's it mean to you to kind of come to a team that's so clearly going for it, and for you to be a part of that, and for you to come here at the same time? I mean, Yu Darvish, Ha-Seong Kim, and all the moves they made at the deadline. What does that all together mean to you for a team that's so clearly going for it?
I got a question. I saw you on MLB Network, and they were talking about you getting some sleep. Did you get any sleep?
I've slept about maybe 6 hours in the last 2 nights.
And the Padres included pitcher Zach Davies in part of the trade for Darvish. As for Snell, he said this today about the Padres. They got a team that plays with a lot of fun. They're swaggy. San Diego's Digital Gym Cinema has a special binge-worthy treat for movie fans. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando tells us how they're restoring films from a famous Hong Kong director for an online audience.
If you've never seen a Wong Kar-wai film, then this is the perfect opportunity to immerse yourself in his rapturously romantic cinematic universe. Enter the world of Wong Kar-wai, a collection of 7 restored films by the Hong Kong filmmaker. His films are not romantic in the Hollywood mold, but rather are about an aching romantic longing. Plot is not important, but mood and emotion are. He sweeps you up with intoxicating visuals that often play like densely layered, exquisitely clever music videos, where image and music blend seamlessly to create mood. In Wong's world, a single moment can change a life forever, and a missed opportunity can haunt his characters for the rest of their lives. Although each film has a distinctly different rhythm, they all riff on similar themes of love, loss, desire, and the possibility and impossibility of love. Wong says that in a sense, he's making a single epic work.
Each film I make is just like a sequence in that long film, and I'm not sure what the long film is intended to be. But anyway, I just love them all.
And so do I. And now audiences can enjoy 7 cinematic chapters in Wong's epic saga through the world of Wong Kar-wai. It's available for the next month through Digital Gym Cinema at home. So whether you're a longtime fan of Wong's films or completely new to them, this collection provides an amazing cinematic experience to enjoy from quarantine. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, as COVID-19 deaths and cases continue to surge, we talk with President-elect Biden's pick to lead the CDC. That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
This week, we're taking a look back at some of our memorable stories from 2020. In September, a new school year was underway amid a pandemic. KPBS education reporter Jo Hong spent a day with one special education teacher who has 2 sons of her own on the autism spectrum.
Always on time and ready to learn.
Leticia Avalar starts her day at 6:30 in the morning.
I still haven't heard from you, Isaac.
She wakes up an hour before her 2 sons so she can lesson plan, catch up on emails, or clean her house.
Okay, here. Here's your jelly. We can take your sandwiches outside.
When her sons wake up, she prepares breakfast and logs into her virtual classroom.
Okay, Jonah, I'm gonna go on classes, guys. Let's have a quiet voice.
The 30-year-old single mom hadn't always planned on a career in special education. She was originally studying English and art, but her outlook changed after her first son, Jonah, was diagnosed with autism and epilepsy. Her early experiences with trying to get him the services he needed led her to take a job in 2016 as a special education teacher's aide in the San Diego Unified School District.
Once he was diagnosed, you kind of just get an initial diagnosis and they're like, okay, bye. And for me, I knew there had to be more than that.
Luckily, she had some help.
His first special education teacher guided me through the whole process on how to get services, how to navigate special education, and she would call me and tell me this is what you have to do, this is the best thing for your son, and I wanted to be that person for somebody because I knew how important it was just to have somebody on your corners.
She decided to get her special education teaching credential, which she completed earlier this year. Then, fate dealt her another twist when she had to start her teaching career in the middle of a pandemic. So now she is raising 11-year-old Jonah and 7-year-old Des, who's also on the autism spectrum. And she's logging on every day to teach a class to high schoolers in special ed.
The beginning, it was very hard, especially like everything being shut down. So we were literally stuck in there in like a 1-bedroom apartment for probably 2 months. And that was like very difficult for all of us.
However, she says the first few weeks of teaching in the new term have been smooth, but life's still a challenge. While she teaches, her sons still need her attention as they attend their own Zoom classes.
It's kind of transitioning back into, I'm working again, I don't have the time. It's what's making this difficult again.
Leticia said Jonah hasn't fallen behind academically, but Des is having a harder time with reading and adjusting to the new schedule.
And he's just having a hard time getting back into like the school routine of like being online and seeing his teachers, and it's still very hard for him. He's having difficulties.
Both Jonah and Des are getting speech therapy services, and Leticia says they're getting better at distance learning. When their classes are over, she spends the rest of the day preparing lessons or helping her sons with their schoolwork. She's also studying to get her master's degree in special education.
There's not enough knees, so I feel like I'm not doing enough on their end, and then sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough on the teaching end. Like I always in the day like, what more could I have done? But then I think like, what more can I possibly do?
But she's comforted by the knowledge that the insight she's gained from her son's experiences has made her both a better teacher and a better parent. Jo Hong, KPBS News.
It's been one of President Trump's targets for months, and the fight to control TikTok continues to roll ahead. The U.S. government on Monday appealed a preliminary injunction that prevented the U.S. Department of Commerce from being able to fully restrict the popular video app. President Trump has accused the Chinese-owned parent company, ByteDance, of being a national security risk, claiming user data could be forcibly handed over to the Chinese government. TikTok has denied the claim, saying user data is stored in Virginia and Singapore, out of reach of Chinese law. And TikTok might not have been the most viral social platform of 2020, but there was so much more that impacted our culture, starting with day-to-day life during a pandemic. From masks to monoliths, Jeremy Roth takes a look back at some of the stories that grabbed our attention this year.
2020 was a year unlike any other. That goes without saying. So it makes sense that a lot of the year's trends and viral stories followed, well, the same trend, pandemic life. And probably the biggest trend therein was masks. They were everywhere. And while most were purely functional, some couldn't help but make them fashionable.
Who are you wearing on your face?
Others made them funky, both figuratively and literally.
It smells just like our bacon.
One person even paid $1.5 million to have their mask encrusted with diamonds. Sheesh, talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Social distancing became a way of life, and people got creative. Hug walls became a thing, plastic barriers with built-in sleeves that allowed loved ones a much-needed warm embrace without being in your face. And cardboard cutout standees became stand-ins for absentees at family functions. Business owners showed no shame in their social distancing game. Some restaurants used dummies to dumb down their seating issues. Other businesses started thinking outside the box by putting patrons inside boxes, or inside igloos, or bubbles, which was an idea that popped for rock band The Flaming Lips, who put on shows at venues literally bursting at the seams with bubble-bound fans. For Halloween, the term masks took on a whole new meaning, with some trick-or-treaters getting their candy fix via hands-off innovations like candy shoots, candy catapults, and candy cannons. But hey, there were plenty of viral stories in 2020 that were non-COVID related, and some of them weren't pretty. A sculpture in Spain went viral after it underwent a restoration that was not great. The botched job drew swift condemnation from artists and, of course, swift ridicule from the social media set. Some stories were adorable, like this 4-year-old Connecticut girl who went viral by recreating beloved movies such as Braveheart, A League of Their Own, and The Shining. The family turned the fun into philanthropy, linking the vids to a donation site that has since raised more than $33,000 for families in need. Some viral stories were inspiring, like this trio of teen fishermen who set sail off the coast of Maine and reeled in a 700-pound bluefin tuna after an intense 7-hour battle. The 9-foot fish was towed to shore where it landed the teens another big score, a cool $2,000 from a seafood distributor. And some viral stories were just plain weird, like the appearing, disappearing, reappearing monoliths. The unexplained bizarre figure first showed up in a Utah state park. Was it left there by artists, aliens, or just really big Stanley Kubrick fans? Thrill seekers came from all corners to catch a glimpse, but just as mysteriously as it appeared, it suddenly vanished, only to pop up later in California, Nevada, Romania, Britain, etc. This last story gone viral seemed to capture the vibe of 2020 perfectly. A couple forced by the pandemic to postpone their wedding plans were finally tying the knot, bringing a ray of sunshine to a cloudy Massachusetts day when, during the groom's speech, 2020 just couldn't hold its peace.
2020 has not been the best year.
The happy couple pressed on and ended up with a wedding day to remember, but if that combo of communion and chaos doesn't sum up 2020, then I don't know what does. In Atlanta, I'm Jeremy Roth.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.